Morning, everyone. It's Quan coming a day late with the USDJPY video. This is my first traditional video on the public YouTube, although I've done plenty of these for the members on our private Discord. Sam and I decided yesterday to split duty, and he did gold, and I'm going to do USDJPY. I had a truly ball-busting evening yesterday trying to figure out why my Camtasia wasn't recording audio. Honestly, still can't figure it out because the two mics I tried work on my laptop and other devices, but not in my PC. But I am recording on my Bose Bluetooth headset. It's, for whatever reason, the only thing that's working, so that makes me suspect that there's something wrong with my USB ports. But the downside of these headsets is that they're so sensitive that you're going to hear every little background noise. So if there's water running in the faucet behind me or whatever, you're probably going to pick that up. So I apologize for that. I'm trying to figure out how to resolve this, but for the time being, I did want to get something out. So a day late, but better late than never. Here is the USDJPY. Now, of course, when we split duty, my partner Sam, I think, ran an early April Fool's joke on me and made me do this chart. It is a truly ugly and difficult to pin down chart. So here we have it on the daily, but let me zoom out to the weekly so you can see how difficult this is going to be to analyze. So this is a price record that dates back to what, 1975, the beginning of 1975, and clearly there was a lot of price and waves being put in here that isn't registered on TradingView. This is the oldest price record I could find. But nevertheless, what we have here is, in a word, undecipherable. We don't know what this is. There's really no impulsive or motive structure preceding this that we can look at to ground this very clearly corrective structure. And as a result of that, we don't know whether this all-time low on this chart is a bottom. We don't know whether this move here to the right of kind of the two markers I've set is the beginning of a motive structure or a continuation of what looks like to be a, since inception, a corrective structure. And so we have some clues as to what might be going on from a momentum standpoint, but where this little move here fits in the bigger scheme of things is anyone's guess, right? So when you have something that looks like this, in my opinion, you really have to consider both a motive option as well as a corrective option. And then what I do is I use other clues from TA like geometry, resistance and support levels to try to figure out which of the two is more probable. So that's kind of what we're going to do today. And for the sake of time, I'm going to do it backwards. So typically I start with the bigger picture. I apply a lot of geometric analysis. I gain conviction around support and resistance levels. I may do some Fibonacci time analysis to get grounded on where I think a particular corrective structure or a particular motive structure is in relation to the overall chart. Corrective structures, I'm looking for reasonable percentages of the impulses that they're correcting, and motive structures, I'm looking for reasonable extensions of the prior preceding actionary wave. However, we don't have the ability to do that with very good context here because of the shape of this chart. So I am going to drill down into the daily and then the lower time frames, try to analyze this move. We may zoom back out here to see if it fits in the bigger picture, but really we're going to come up with two broad counts and then do some quick geometry analysis, and and then you can make your conclusions as to which you like. Okay, so let me go back to the daily. So here I've marked the low, and I've kind of put this vertical marker here to denote that I'm going to start from here, my count from here. Once again, very difficult to pin down what this is. So I'm going to have two options here, and because of, actually, I did want to say one last thing, so let me go to the weekly. Because my bias is down, I'm going to start with this being a corrective structure, all of this from here on upwards. The reason why I feel that way is one of the fundamental rules of TA is that trends tend to hold. the majority of the time, something like 70 or 80% of the time. If you're looking at a trend that's strong, which this very clearly is a trend that's strong, then when you have something in question uh, like this emanating from that trend, 70-80% of the time or greater, it's likely that it'll be nothing more than a continuation of that trend. So a trend is good until it's not, and it's broken as a trend only a minority of the time. So the simplest way to look at a trend is to count the highs and lows relative to the swing highs and the swing lows and compare them. And this is clearly a series of lower highs and lower lows. I would say that these pivots here, and then these pivots here are probably of the same geometric significance and therefore degree. So swing high, swing low, lower high, all the way lower low here. You could even go lower low here, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, and therefore very likely, in my opinion, a lower low. Now, I will say that this trend is clearly decelerating. So the lowers on the highs and lows are contracting. And you can clearly see that this period here from that I'm going to put in this yellow box is a period of dramatic range expansion, price range expansion. We've covered, what is it, $309 or something, or $8 at the peak here, all the way down to the low here is around 80 bucks. So 230, or sorry, not dollars. This is a ratio. So 230 vertically, and in what looks to be about the same time to the right of that, we've only covered, what is this, 147, this is 76, so, you know, another 70 or so, right? So this is 3 times bigger, approximately, in price range than this area here. And let's just go do a quick Fibonacci time check. So from here to here, and yeah, we've already passed 100% of this box in time. So we've been in a period of range compression for longer than this entire, what looks to be impulsive move downwards has been. And so that is for sure an indication that there is some deceleration of this momentum for this trend. But the big question is this a retracement or reversal? I'm thinking retracement. Just the velocity of this thing, the swing highs and lows all pointing lower. So my bias is this is going to be some kind of upwards corrective structure, maybe a continuation of a structure that began here. Could be even a triangle, A, B, C, D, E, or something like that, or some kind of sideways pattern, and then downwards would be my guess. But we're going to count it both ways, as I said. So go back to the daily. All right, so first thing to do is, of course, to take a quick gander at this thing and figure out, are there any anchoring points for a count? Are there any geometries that jump out? Are there any trends or structures or patterns that jump out as interesting? For me, immediately my eyes are drawn to this triangle. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be a triangle, but there is very clearly a triangular shape here. And I'm going to mark up the chart a little bit. I'm not calling this Elliott markings. These are just, you know, for me to orient my eyes and mind towards a potential structure, pattern, count. But this wedge-like shape and this triangle jump out. The other thing that jumps out to me, of course, there's a monster triangular pattern here forming as well. So that was fairly obvious. But the other thing that jumps out is, look at the depth of these retracements here. We've got what's clearly a short little impulse here. I mean, it's just one big green candlestick bar, so I don't think you can count it any other way. And then you've got what looks to be a zigzag retracement off of that. Then you've got obviously an impulse here, a retracement of that. Then you've got obviously another impulsive move here, and then a much lighter retracement, impulsive move, much lighter retracement, and it's a series of light retracements all throughout. So you've got 2 very substantial retracements and then nothing but up after that, and that is going to be a ball buster to count. I can tell you, because those types of shapes make for a very difficult Elliott count. because in Elliott, we really would like to anchor ourselves around retracements, and basically we measure how much of the preceding extraordinary wave the retracement has retraced, and then we measure the extraordinary waves relative to each other to gain conviction as to where we are within a wave count. You know, 3 tends to be the longest. We're looking for reasonable extensions of the 1 for the 3. We can gain conviction that a 1 is a 1 if the 2 retraces a substantial amount of it. Similarly, for a 4, it should retrace a little bit more lightly for the 3, but it's going to be hard to do that here because of this dynamic here where we got some kind of 1, 2, and then I don't know what this would be. Maybe if it's a 3, then it's a diagonal structure, but then this would be the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, this would be the 5. And if it's a 1, 2, 1, 2, well, that's a monster 1, 2 of a lower degree to this 1, 2. So it's going to be a tricky count. I can tell already, right? So these two jump out at me as something to focus on. And because of that, this being tricky, I want to connect these trend lines, and it does appear that there's kind of this outward expanding wedge shape that forms when you do that, which opens up the possibility that we're talking about an expanding leading diagonal structure here. Now, what the hell a triangle is doing after that remains a big mystery and question that we need to resolve, but right now we're just looking at geometries. The other thing that jumps out to me is there is a trend line from here to here that appears to be in play. And as a result of that, immediately I want to pull a channel to see what a channel says about this structure. If the median line hits these points or something and seems to be important to this price, then possibly all of this could be one wave structure in progress as well. So let's put a channel on that instead of just a trend line. And let me pull this down. This is not an Elliott channel, it's just a traditional geometry channel, trying to capture the lows and the highs within the channel. And as you can see, that median line is just money. It captures both of these triangular shapes. You know, it captures this retracement, hits this peak here. There's a little wick above it, and then below acts as resistance. This does seem to be an important channel. The other kind of test of it is to pull it back a little bit more and see if it's impactful to the preceding wave structure. And it is interesting here a little bit. It is interesting. So this appears to be in play to me. So something to consider as we count our waves. What else jumps out to find our place in a wave structure? Well, this is a fairly deep retracement. So why don't we start measuring Fibonacci off of this? And it does look to be, you know, at least 382 of this. Probably deeper than that, but let's check it out. Let's go from this swing low all the way to the swing high. And sure enough, it's actually deeper than 50. So let's start here because it's such a substantial retracement relative to this structure. It is halfway back, and we know FX is probably the most technical asset class in my opinion. It's really responsive to algo targets, really responsive to Fibonacci levels in both price and time. And now that we've measured Fibonacci price, let's also measure Fibonacci time for this structure. It does look very impulsive to me. However, we have to be open to the possibility that it's corrective, given that it did retrace 50% of what looks to be a potentially impulsive move here. So so we're going to go from swing low to swing high. This is Fib time now. And this thing gets cut off right between the 236 and the 382, a pretty reasonable level actually for a 2 to retrace a 1. So I know we said we're going to start with the corrective case, but as we're applying these different geometries and analyzing the wave structure, it does appear that this is a pretty credible impulse. reasonably deep 2 off of that impulse, so a 1, 2, and then this could be something else in progress, that maybe not a triangle, but a 1, 2, one of the 3, 2 of the 3, or something like that in progress. So we do have ourselves at the beginning of what looks to be a pretty credible impulsive count from a fib perspective. We're going to come back to this, but let's focus. So now that we've got this as a good starting backdrop, let's focus on this triangle. Let's see if this is in fact a triangle, or could be called a triangle. And then if it is, it does really anchor our count for this, because then it's very likely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or something like that. Or this could be the B of something. It's like an A, B, C, or something like that, right? So let's this is important. This is an important structure, and so is this. So let's go into the 1 hour to analyze these two things. Now I'm on the daily, so if I flip it to the 1 hour, annoyingly, TradingView zooms all the way back here, and I'm gonna have to work my way back to find these two. So let me put a big box around it, so it's easier to find as I'm on a smaller time frame. And okay, let's go to the 1 hour. Yeah, like I said, now I'm all the way on the right. I have to keep scrolling to find my place. So let's look for that yellow box. It's so annoying. I wish TradingView wasn't this annoying. You know what? It looks like I can't do it. It didn't capture. I can't do it that far back in the 1 hour. There's not enough data. See, the wave got cut off. So I'm going to have to maybe try the 2 hour. I have no idea how much data it captured. So, okay, 2 hour might work. Well, unfortunately not. All right, data gets cut off here once again. So let's try the 4 hour. Oh, I saw some yellow. There we go. Okay, so the 4 hour. Let's try to take this off. Are these, well, let's focus on this one first. Is this a credible Elliott triangle? Now, as I say that, I'm thinking maybe this, we could also draw it this way. And all of this could be a triangle, a running triangle, where it's a short A, a large complex B, C, D, E. A, very large B, C, D. It could be, but that, these waves are very short relative to these other two. So I'm not saying it can't be, but that seems less likely. But we'll consider both. All right, so let's focus on this little guy first. And what we're looking for is a few things. So we want to see the actionary waves of this triangle, so the A, the C, and the E, have some kind of reasonable Fibonacci relationship, ideally. 618 would be textbook. As low as 382, I think, is allowable. 786 is certainly a good level. But, more important to me than the actual nailing of the fib ratio is that there's some consistency. That obviously it's a contracting triangle, so it should contract in a common ratio, or give it, pretty close to common ratio. Similarly, for these reactionary waves, the B and the D, we're looking for a reasonable proximity to a Fibonacci ratio, like a 618 would be ideal. And then the reactionary waves, this B and D, we would like to see retracements of at least 50% for the actionary wave to gain a lot of conviction that we are in a triangle. Lighter is okay, it doesn't break a rule, but under 50% makes you question the triangle a little bit. So let's, actually I would have to draw it this way, because we draw a trend line on the AC ending point. So this would be the A, B, C. So A and C. This would be the E. So we don't connect this one. And then this would be on the BD. So it would be A, B, C, D. So it would be up here. This is kind of how we demark a triangle in Elliott Wave Theory. Okay, so I can tell already that because of the shape of this, it is looking pretty reasonable as a triangle. Let's kind of do measurements first. Here to here would be the A, off the B, and sure enough, very close to 618 for this proposed C, right? So that passes the test. And this B does retrace this A significantly more than 50%, so it passes that test. So looking pretty good so far. Now what about this C relative to this E? Doing an alternate price projection for the C off the D, and look at that. Very, very close to 618. All of a sudden, I'm now convinced this is a triangle. What about the B and the D? Actually, wait. Let's see. This D retraces. I can tell already, but just to make sure that we're not faking the funk, substantially more than 50% of this C passes that test. So the B and the D, B off the C for the D, exactly 618. Look at that. So this to me is about as close to a textbook triangle as can be. And now, does the wave shape support it? And given all this overlap, I can tell already we're looking at some pretty ugly zigzags if this is a triangle. We can only have one of these 5 waves that's not a simple ABC zigzag. And if it's not a simple ABC zigzag, then it's got to be one of 3 things: a double zigzag, a triple zigzag, or a triangle itself. So I can see already there's no triangle within this triangle, so scrap that. But there could be some kind of double zigzag or even a triple zigzag in here somewhere. But let's try to simplify it and try to see if we can count 5 consecutive zigzags, which is the most typical structure for a triangle. Well, this thing here, if it's going to be a 3-wave structure, I'm going to try to find a retracement that's substantial enough to be the B, and immediately my eye comes to this one. Right? It is very sharp. However, you can see that there's a little bit of a pit stop here and a break even in the candlesticks to denote a B. So it could be an A, B, C, sharp zigzag, but that is allowed for zigzags to be sharp. See, A, B, C. And so alternatively, you could have some kind of expanded flat where this is an A, this is a B, and this is an impulsive move up here for the C. So this A ends here, then the B begins here, A, B, C for the B, and then you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty much counts itself as the C. So can this be an impulse, whether it ends here or here? Let's see. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a very clean count as a 5-wave move down for the 1. A, B, C, 2, deeply retracing the 1. So that so far so good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Either 5 here or 5 all the way down here, and then a 4 and a 5, or a tiny little 4 that could even be a triangle and a 5 down here. So yeah, this does pass the test as an ABC zigzag. Now what about this thing? Well, this is clearly 1, 2. No other way to count that. And so this could be the 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That seems reasonable, with the 5 being about the same size as this 1. Visually, I can tell that that's true. No overlap of the 4 of the 1 by the 4. And then A, B, C, little zigzag here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up here for the C. That seems like a pretty reasonable count. This does look like one combined structure that is itself a corrective structure, so you have to be open to the possibility of some kind of triangle, A, B, C, D, E. In fact, that would be cleaner to me. And I'm a big fan of the right look, and this does look cleaner to me as a triangle than the way I had it counted as this tiny little zigzag with it in the middle of this cluster. And so if this is a triangle, then we're probably looking at a double zigzag. A, B, long C, triangle X, A, B, C. So it's a WXY, or more simply that zigzag with the tiny little B here, which I don't like as much. But so if there's a complex wave, this could be it. Let's move on to the next one. We're now looking at the proposed C. And this to me cleanly can be counted as a zigzag with an expanding ending diagonal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see the shape very clearly. And the reason why is this retracement in time is the most substantial for this entire structure here. More substantial than this, more substantial than obviously this little one. So I am inclined to call this, based on its depth of this retracement, as well as the significant amount of time transpired, that this is the B of a zigzag. If you were to draw a channel from here to here, it clearly breaks that channel, and so it's a very, very textbook B, and then you've got an expanding diag C here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, expanding diag. So that checks out as a clean ABC zigzag. This thing up here as the D, let's see. Well, there's an overlap here, so if we're going to count this as a motive structure, then it's got to be a diag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This, lots of little lines here. Whoops. And then that makes this as a sharp zigzag, ABC for the B. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably another diag. ABC1, ABC2, ABC3, ABC4, ABC5, something like that. Anyway, this can be counted as a zigzag, and then down here, very obviously can be as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably another diag given the overlap. ABC up here, and then 1, 2, either 3, 4, 5, and this is a diag, or 1, 2, all the way down here somewhere, 3, 4, 5. So it does pass the test as a triangle. Now let's consider, well, first of all, can this be a triangle? I did this one in so much depth that I don't feel like I need to do the same analysis here. You guys already have learned how to check for a triangle. A, B, C, D, E, very credibly could be. Let's do some quick measurements. This A and this C very close to 618 once again, so that checks out pretty nicely. This C and this proposed E, not quite 618, but 50%, more than 50%, so not bad, not bad. And remember, the E is the wave that least needs to conform to these ratios, because more than 50% of the time we're going to have either an underthrow, meaning a short E, or an overthrow, a long E that doesn't break the channel, or the AC doesn't reach a new price extreme relative to the bottom of the C. So it can go all the way down here, but we're not. Doesn't look like it's either. Probably a little bit of a short E, as you can tell from this AC trend line, and that's fine. 50% is acceptable. What about the B and the D? This would be the B. This would be the D. And, damn close to 618, right? So this is looking very much like a credible triangle as well. There's a huge amount of sideways fuckery in this wave, so this looks like it likely would be the complex wave. I can see here the A, B, C zigzag for the W, A, B, C, X, A, B, C, Y, something like that. Alternatively, A, B, C for the zigzag, expanded flat X, A, B, C down here, and then A, B, C up here for the Y. You could even count it as a regular structure with two diags strung together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the A, expanded flat B, 1, 2, 3, 4 with the overlap here in 5. So lots of ways to count this, but to me, this does check out as a triangle. What about the combination of the two? Is that a credible triangle? Well, without doing a ton of measurements, I'm going to discount that possibility only because if this is a triangle, it's got to be a running triangle where it's a short A. This B obviously would be the complex wave, where you got A, triangle, B, C up here. And because of the amount of time, this triangle takes up probably more than the combined time of all the other waves of this proposed larger triangle, this would be forced to be the complex wave. Complexity can be either in structure or in time, and because it took so long, this would have to be the complex wave. And then you've got, C, D, E, and this C, this D, and the E are so short relative to this substantially larger A and this monster B that doesn't really fly for me as a triangle. It does reach some kind of net retracement of the origin of the A, so it's a light retracement, but there is some net retracement. So you would have to consider it as a possibility, but I do like these independent triangles better. So now we've got two triangles next to each other to consider in our count. Let me zoom out to the daily again. So we've confirmed a few things here. We've confirmed that this being a triangle right in the middle of this pretty complex motive looking sequence is valid, and because of that, and the fact there's a triangle right after it, or a possibility of a triangle right after it, this one certainly is not as clean a triangle as this one. So it could just be 1, 2, leading diag 1, deep 2, 3, 4, 5, or something like that, right? So because this triangle here, and it's such a clean triangle, is right in the middle of it, I'm inclined to call it a B, and this the A, and this the C. If this is a 4, this is a pretty large 5. Now, extensions of the 5 do occur, but if we're talking probabilities, it's probably a little less likely. So let's go back to what I said and measure this initially as a corrective structure, an A, B, C. Well, if this is the B, and this is kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is ugly, but it does pass the test as a diag with a very quickly expanding diag, I might add. But if we're going to count this as a zigzag with a B triangle, well, this expanding diag A certainly qualifies as the A wave. And so we could have 1, 2, 1 of the 2, 2 of the 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, sorry, 1 of the 3, not 2, 1 of the 3, 2 of the 1, 2, 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3. Then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 of the 3. This structure here could itself be a running triangle, A, B, C, D, E, something like that, a 4, and then this move up here could be a 5. So it does work. But let's measure the lengths. So swing low, swing high, off of the orthodox bottom of this triangle. So not the price extreme, not the A, but the E. You measure everything from the orthodox points in Elliott wave. So A, B, C, D, E. So off of here, and look at that. We've got a picture perfect 100% extension of the A for the C. Look at that. Right at the top of this channel. So we've got ourselves a possible ABC. Let's actually label it. We've done a bunch of work, so I want to commemoralize it with a marking here. And memorialize it, I should say. If this is an ABC, let's just zoom out to the bigger picture, 1 week again. Try to figure out how that fits into the bigger picture. I'm going to take off this bib time and this for now. Well, if this is a 3-wave move, my eye immediately gravitates towards this thing looking very much like a fractal of this. I mean, look at how similar it is. This very 3-wave looking thing here, A, B, C, and then sideways fuckery, which looks very triangular, and then down. Well, this looks like an ABC too, as we just qualified. Sideways fuckery that's looking very triangular and possibly down, right? So what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a running triangle? A, B, C, A, B somewhere up here, C down here, B, A, B, C, C, A, triangle B, C, D, and then up here for the E, something like that. That's a possibility. So this does fit in that context. Let me do something. Let me see whether this move here and this move here have similarities in either Fibonacci price or time. They look pretty similar in size and time. Let's see. So from here to here, pretty close to 786. And then what about time? So low swing high off of here. And right here would be very close to 100%. A little bit longer, but it was shorter in Fib price, right? So it was about a little shy of 786. So the fact that it's a little longer in time certainly passes my sniff test. Whatever doesn't happen in price is often made up for in time, and so it took a little longer. The reason why I did that, guys, is when we're looking at a wave structure that is this difficult to define, we're trying to figure out, is this of the same degree as this? That's an important determination. If this is of the same degree than this, then this must be of the same degree too. And now we're looking at 3-wave move, possibly a 3 or even a 5-wave corrective move here, and then 3-wave move here. So this is very likely to be all part of a higher degree structure. That's what I'm trying to determine here. And the reason why I kind of think about that is, again, to me, the most obvious conclusion from looking at the macro is that this is price range expansion and everything else is price range contraction. And at the highest degree, that tends to be all one pattern. So if it's all one pattern, are we looking at a triangle here? Well, A, B, C, D in progress, and an E. That's kind of where I'm headed here. I think that that's very possible. It would fit the narrative of price range compression in a long amount of time, correcting whatever vicious downward move this was, and it does look like it started way above this, because this is clearly a structure that is impulsive, but it is in sequence. It is not starting here. You can't start an impulse 1 and then a 2 that retraces beyond the origin of the 1. So clearly some waves got put in here, and then look at how sharp this was, and there's kind of this corrective looking piece here attached to the top of it. So this makes me think that there's more wave here, possibly substantially more wave here. Okay, so and then this looks very much like a zigzag, maybe even a double zigzag, but it looks very sharply corrective and retraces a big amount of this. So yeah, so we're probably correcting a structure that you know in its entirety would look more like this in time. And so this taking a long time, A, B, C, D, E, would make a ton of sense to me. So now let's, as we said earlier, zoom in to the one day time frame again and count the ABC zigzag that we did differently. Let's try to get a motive structure out of it. Here we are again on the daily. We had this potentially labeled as an ABC. Remember that this little triangular marking here was not consistent with this C count, but we kept it there anyway for use when we put the alternate count up here. And similarly, I'm going to keep these markings here just visually, just to orient ourselves for the ABC count, but they're not going to belong there for the impulse count. Or maybe they will, but I don't think so, right? So if we have an A that's a 5-wave structure, that could certainly be a 1. However, if that is a 1, then what the hell is a triangle doing in the 2 position, right? So that, to me, disqualifies that as a likely 1, unless we're talking about a very, very sharp and short in time zigzag that's a 2. That's also very light relative to this 1. So all of this A could be a 1, and the A of this B triangle that we have could be the 2 down here. I don't like that. It's too sharp and therefore too short in time relative to this large 1 that's being corrected. And it's also way too short in retracement. So we've got, probably less than 146 even. No, I'm wrong. About 382. Light, therefore, for a 2. So we can't discount that, but also just the way this measures so cleanly as a triangle makes me think that if we're going to count this as an impulse, we're looking at a very small 1, 2. Remember, there was 2 very deep retraces in a row, which led us to conclude that this might be a diag. But this diag has such enormous proportions from a Fib ratio perspective for the 1 and the 3 and the 3 and the 5 that don't love it. Actually, we didn't measure it, so let's try to measure it to see what the proportions really are. So this would be the 1 of that diag. The 3 would be, I don't know, let's put 2618 on there. No, that's too high. 2236, that's too high. Maybe it's just double. A little shy of double, the 1 for this 3. So what about the 5 relative to the 3? I can tell it's a lot more than double. More like triple, right? So yeah, the proportions are leave some doubt in there. However, how else would you count it if this is a triangle and you've got kind of this 3-wave move? I still stick by that count, but if we're going for the impulse, I think that it's more probable that instead of this being a diag 1 with those proportions and then a 2 that's so sharp and small, because the 2 can't be this triangle, that we've got a 1, 2 here and everything else is the 3. Well, we'll figure out where the 3 would end, but somewhere it would end here or here, and then a 4 and a 5, right? This triangle might come in as the 4, actually, now that I think about it. It's a little light as a retracement, but it's certainly substantial enough in time to qualify. So we're going to have to give and take here and there because the wave structure is so ugly that we're not going to get textbook on this one. So if this is a 1, 2, and then because of the depth of this can't be a 3, so it would be forced to be a 1, 2 if we're counting this as the 1, 2. And this 1, 2, which is substantially greater, would have to be a 1, 2 of a smaller degree. That's the thing that's tricky about this count. So 1, 2, 1 of the 3, 2 of the 3, 3 of the 3. This triangle would fit very cleanly as a 4 of the 3, up for the 5, and this would be the 3. If this is a triangle, which we already early in the video confirmed that it could be, this would be the 4 of the same degree as this 1, 2, and this entire large 3, and this would be the 5. So it does work. 1, 2, 3, triangle, 4, 5 up here, right? So it's pretty clean other than this tiny little 1, 2. If this were a bigger 1, 2 that looked like this, I would have no qualms about putting that count on, with the possible exception that this is a light retracement for a 4, in price at least. Checks out okay in time. So let's do that measurement really quickly. Wait, what am I doing? Wrong tool. I was going to pull a fib and I pulled an APP. So from here, the origin of the 3 to the end of it, and you can see it's a very light 4. It's not 236 even. It's certainly more than 146, but it's a pretty light 4. Okay, but if this all of it is the 3 somehow, 1, 2, 3, kind of very, very short little 4. I don't like that count, but this would be a light retracement too, because the orthodox bottom would be around here, so that would be probably similar. Yeah, about 236. So either this or this, we're looking at a light retracement. So we can't get around a light retracement due to the shape of this upward move. So let's check out time. If this is the origin of the 3 and this is the end of the 3, well, it checks out a lot better in time. It is greater than 236 in time, and yeah, closer to 236 to 382, so maybe like 30% or so, which is a reasonable amount of time for consolidation to continue to occur before the trend continues upwards. So not as textbook as 382, but you know it is beyond 236. It checks out for me, given the other options. So let's start to label this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the orthodox bottom, and then 5 up here. This 5 is the cleanest count. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, E. Whoops. And then up here for a short little 5. That is, you know, a reasonable extension of this 1, similar in size. So, got 2 counts here. I know the video is running a little bit long, but it is a very tricky chart. So I did want to qualify my thoughts as I talked about them. And now it's time to figure out what goes on after this. Okay, so in the impulsive structure case, this would be a 1, because remember, this is the all-time low here, at least for this price record. So that would force this to be a 2. And so, well, no, not necessarily. This could be the 2, and this could be the 3 in progress. So that's one possibility. So we got to consider that. So let me put a marker here, because in both the ABC and 1 through 5 case, we end the count here, and we'd have to begin a new one here. And I'm trying to figure out, how do we think about this? Is it all one structure? Is this the correction for this 5 or ABC, and then we're going up? What is it, right? So let's zoom out again to consider both options on the weekly. Now that we have it zoomed out, let's ponder the consequences of this being a 3-wave ABC or it being a 5-wave impulse. One of the things that I like to do is, when you've got a piece of wave that you've analyzed, is try to figure out in the bigger picture, what degree is this relative to some of the other important wave structures here? Is this of the same degree as this, and therefore this and this? These 3 look to be of the same degree of geometric importance, as well as just in terms of how long in time it took to put them in. This looks very similar to that. Or is it of a higher degree, where you've got all of this possibly as one structure, looking very triangular, by the way. So let's actually consider this as a possible triangle a little later. I think that you would have to count it this way if it's triangle to get the 5 waves, A, B, C, D, E, like that. And so is this of the same degree as all of this? Which doesn't seem likely to me. Very short. Could be, but looks very short. I guess if this is a triangle and then this is the wave that emanates from it, it would have to be a 5. And this 1, if it's a 5-wave move, does in fact look of the same degree as this one. It's almost like a mirror image of it. Both in price and time, it looks very consistent with this. So it's possible that it's of higher degree than this wave, but we also have to consider the possibility that it's of the same degree. Let's try to determine that through a couple of measurements. We're not going to know for sure, but just to start anchoring our thinking around a macro count. The reason why I'm doing that is, now that we've analyzed this wave, hyper-analyzed it, we got to have an opinion as to what this is, right? And you're not going to know what this is until you know what this is, or have some opinion as to what it is. So let's do fib price and time comparisons between this move we analyze and this move here. So from here to here, swing slow to swing high off of the all-time low. And we get what looks to be almost 786 in price. So, you know, pretty comparable in length. What about fib time? There are no hard and fast rules as to what fib price and fib time need to be, but we're just trying to figure out how likely is it that these two structures are of the same degree. And let me extend this a little bit. And you can see here it's over by a little bit, over 100% in time of that same structure. So certainly very legitimately could be of the same degree. So kind of what I'm thinking is either this is a triangle and this is the phi that ensues from it, and now we're in some kind of impulse that ended, and this is possibly a 2, because I think this is just too substantial a structure for this to be of the same, for this to be part of an impulse that began here. It would have to be something like 1, 2, 3, a 4 that's a triangle or something like that in progress. It's too long. And if that's not the case, if it's 1, 2, all this 3, 4 down here, which certainly could seem more probable, this is a very ugly 5. I just don't see it getting to this price extreme high. It would have to be some kind of failed 5 in progress. It would be 1, 2, 3, maybe a triangle. Then you need a very, very big lift for the 5 to complete. Doesn't seem likely to me. Doesn't seem likely. So I am thinking that whatever wave we're analyzing from the low here ended here, and this is a separate structure. Okay, so if this is of the same degree as this, then we don't have many options. I think we're looking at a triangle, not this triangle here, but this this triangle. Well, let me keep that there. Triangle that looks like this, where this is A, some kind of complex B, given the shape, it's got to be complex, C, D, E, and then down, right? That's one possibility. And who knows where the lower pivot here would be. Could be literally exactly the same as this, or anywhere upwards of that. It's one possibility. Another possibility is that, again, this is a triangle here, A, B, C, D, E. This is a 5, and now we're putting in a 1, 2, right? And as I said, if this is a triangle that ended here, this wave here and this wave here are almost mirror images. I don't have to measure it to see that. They're very close, very legitimately of the same degree, but as a result of that, it further disqualifies this as being an impulse in progress still that began from here. And so we would likely be looking at this as a 2, or this being the 2, and then a 3 up. And this is the beginning of the 3 up. So let's consider those 3 cases where we've got a completed impulse here, a completed correction of that impulse here, and then a 3 in progress. Let's consider the case where this is an impulse, and this is just the first leg of a 3-wave move down for the 2. And then let's also consider the case where this is a continuation of this structure, of this range compression, that very likely could be a triangle, A, B, C, kind of D down, and an E, right? So we're going to look at 3 cases here. Back to the daily. We got all these trend lines here, so it's a little cluttered, but these are important trend lines to consider. This one, not really. This is the bottom of this possible highest degree triangle that we considered, and so since we don't have a second pivot, this trend line doesn't mean anything, so let me remove it. And let's look at this structure here. Finally, the video is getting a little long, but as you guys will acknowledge, it's a nasty, nasty wave. Very, very hard to analyze. So could this be a 2, credibly? Well, it's certainly sharp enough to be a 2. Is it deep enough? Let's see. Wow, a little past the 50, so halfway back. Very legitimately could be a 2 ended right here. If that's the case, how do we count it? Because you've got the same dynamic here as I noted earlier, where you got 2 balls deep retracements in a row, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Same dynamic as this. So, and then after that, lightly retraced thereafter. That complicates things because we don't have a substantial retracement after that to anchor this entire count. So we have to kind of use our imagination. Let's see. Well, it could be a flat correction with a long C leg. A, B, C, A, B, C, B, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Certainly could be that. That is a clean count. Now it's a long C, but it is an irregular wave shape. So I think we got to consider that as a possibility. A, B, C, A, B, C, and it does retrace the approximately 90% of the A. This B does. That is a guideline for the flat corrections. Not quite 90, but 80% ish, give or take. So I think that qualifies. And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. No, this would probably be the 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This cluster here must be the 4. 2. That's better. 1, 2. The depth of it and the shape of it makes me think it's 1, 2. And then all of this, the 3 possibly. Or the 3 could be all the way down to here even. And a 4. But if that's the case, this is a very odd 3 because the 3 can't be a diag. So all this overlap makes me think this is the 3. This is clearly a sideways pattern, possibly a triangle. So that would be the 4. And then it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly. Anyway, there is a way to count this as an A, B, C, in other words. What else could it be? Well, anytime you have a flat correction, you have to consider the possibility that is a double zigzag because ABC, ABC could easily be ABCW, ABCX, and then you have a Y that's long. So that's a possibility. And if it's a 2, it befits a 2 more than a flat pattern. And given how sharp it is, I'm inclined to believe that that's what it is. Yeah, I would probably go with that, a double zigzag. Even a triple zigzag maybe. ABCW, ABCX, ABCY, this triangle here, another X, and then ABCZ. That's probably what I'd go with because it's at least then the W, the Y, and the Z are closer in length. So I'd probably go with that. So if that's the case, then the wave ended here. Whoops. And now we're looking at the 3. If this 5 is the 1, this would be the 2 that retraces 50%, quite textbook, and then this is the 3 in progress. Now this is where it gets challenging because is this really a 3 in progress? I mean, it's pretty challenging to count this as a 3 in progress, fellas. The 3 is the most powerful move. And then this looks very 3 wave. How would you count this as a? I think it's challenging to count this even as a 1, 2, because how do you count it? It would have to be a diag. A, B, C, 1, A, B, C, 2, then A, B, C, 3. It would put in a diag as the 1 of the 3. That doesn't seem that likely to me. So already I'm leaning away from this count because the shape doesn't really tell me that that's what's going on here. I also this channel here looks very suspicious. It channels so well here that the 3's got a long way to go before it breaks the channel, and it very likely would break the channel. Would have to for it to be a legitimate 3, in my opinion. And this is not looking very impulsive at all. So I'm going to leave open the possibility that it's 1, 2, and then we've got some very ugly diagonal 1 of the 3 in progress, but I'm going to kind of coach you away from that as a possibility. That doesn't seem likely to me. So then what are the other two options? Well, the other two options are that this is a 2 still in progress. Certainly possible, right? We've got some kind of A, B, and then a C downwards in progress to complete the 2. Now the 2 did this did hit 50%, so this qualifies as a 2 completed, but 618 is also a very likely target. So it could go deeper than this and still be a 2. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards. So I think this is some kind of corrective structure still in progress if this is a 1 and this is the 2. And of course, if it's a triangle that we talked about where this is the C leg, this ABC is the C leg, well, this would, if this is a 2 in progress, it could also be a D in progress. So the videos run long. I'm not going to count all the subwaves, but I gave you a few options. I'm leaning towards this being a structure that has downside here, below this low. I would pay a lot of attention to the golden pocket here. This 618 level becomes very, very interesting. At which point in time will we reach it? Well, we don't know, but maybe fib time gives us some markers to pay attention to. So from here to here, we're already at the 1. So 1272 and 1618. I would be pretty inclined to want to go along this thing somewhere around here. I would pay a lot of attention to somewhere around here. And I'd be biased short. I'm not saying short this literally right now, but just, you got to develop a wave count that supports the short, but I would be inclined to be short biased and with this as a target if you wanted to trade it. Now, let me zoom out a little bit once again and try to figure out whether some geometry, some basic geometry supports that conclusion. So I'm gonna take off this fib time. Just remember this yellow box is an interesting time. I'm gonna keep the fib pull because it's interesting, and I'm gonna take out these markers here now that we have a count. I'm gonna take off this triangular marker for. I'm gonna keep this one because it's an important trend line to consider from a geometry perspective. Also this. But if this trend line gets broke, if this channel gets broken, fellas, we're headed down to here. And I would be pretty reasonably confident that this might be a buy. Let's see, what else can we do here? Well, whenever you have this much overlap, I like to use fib fan lines to see if the fan lines can explain some of these pivots here that seem to be coming out of nowhere. I assure you they're not coming out of nowhere. There's always geometry in play. You gotta remember that. So the part of the trick of TA is to try to, it's like solving a mystery. You gotta solve the puzzle to figure out which geometries are impacting price. So let's use this tool, the fib fan tool. Go from the swing highest high to this low here, which is the end of what I called a period of range expansion and the beginning of the periods of range compression. And what do you know? Look at this. Very, very solid respect for these fib fan lines. Like I said, the geometry is always in play. The question is, can you figure out which tool to pull to identify it? And this one seems to be at least giving us some clues, right? Even all the way back here, you could see the respect for these lines. Major pivots occur at a lot of these. And look at this one, this, and then this one bounces here, this one contains this one's, and now we're buttoned up right against this one, which is further evidence to me that we're likely headed down this yellow hot box. And again, I haven't even done this to the tick. This is just to illustrate. We could pull the fib fans from another pivot too, maybe from here to here, or even from here to here, although that would clutter up the chart too much. Let's do from here to here, see if there's any insights from that one. Well, you could see the respect of these levels, and this is right here, pretty close. So this is another important trend line to be considerate of it if you're thinking that this is the case where it's 1, 2, and then a 3 up. But yeah, take this off. Maybe not so significant. Let's well, we're running out of time, so I have so many different geometry tools to also apply here, but I'm going to pull out the big one, Willie G, shorthand for William D. Gann, for the Gann square, because it has so many different geometries that it considers all at once. It's got horizontal trend lines, vertical trend lines, arcs, fan lines that are different than the fib fan lines, because Gann uses completely different mathematical principles to derive his structure. So I'm going to put it here on the swinging high. This one I do like to do to the tick, so let me zoom in here, because there's so many geometries at play that you really should nail it to the tick. You can see here, these little ones may not be as impacted by moving this up a couple of pixels up or down, but as you extend further, it does have an impact. So, okay, now I'm going to try to calibrate this quickly. I haven't done this. I am freestyling this, so it may take me a few moments, but let me hide the fib fan lines. We've already determined that we're butting up against a major resistance level, which explains what's going on here. And let's see if Willie G gives us further insight. So let's see, quick calibration here. I like to anchor the calibration to this one initially, and then kind of see where these other arcs and other major resistance and support levels fit within the trajectory of price. So well, this is kind of interesting, isn't it? Let me, if I pull this down to capture these two, of course, a wick below here, but bounces right off this trend line, and then this one, I can get to a calibration, I think, that, yeah, look at that. All right, let me lock this and zoom. See, when I lock it, it allows me to resize it without changing the ratios of the calibration. Now let me unlock it and play around with this some more. But already I'm starting to like where this is headed. I may need a little bit more chart space here, so I may have to expand this beyond the weekly. Maybe not. Let me play around with some more. Let's see. I wish I could compress it more. It doesn't let me because I'm on the weekly and I've run out of screen space. Nevertheless, I am liking this. So I can get a little cleaner here. So I'm going to capture this one here. This arc catches the bottom here. These two arcs, yeah, this one catches this little pivot here. These two, this one. This is a little off. So let me try to move this a little bit like this, and it doesn't violate the integrity of these other pivots, as you can see, but it captures this arc very nicely, this little kind of either ABC or 1 through 5 that we analyzed, and then look at where we are. Right, so let me lock this in. And we did face some support here from this arc, and once again from here, but now we're breaking away from it. So again, further evidence that it's going to fall. And guess what? This vertical line, which has been on some pretty significant pivots, I would say. This one here, obviously, this one here, a little off from this peak, but not off from this peak. And this one's very close to this little pivot here. So this vertical line is very, very close to this yellow hot box that we drew. drawing further interest to that hot box. Now, can we recalibrate the chart a little bit to get these vertical lines to line a little bit better? Let's see, without messing up the chart too much. Yeah, that does it. So you can see the vertical lines now all land on pivots. This one here, and this one is right smack towards the second half, closer to the middle of this hot box, closer to the 1618. Remember, I drew it from the 1272 to the 1618 extension of this move in fib time. So there you have it, folks. A not so quick and dirty view of the USDJPY, but my bias would be that we are moving downwards here. There's this trend line, there's that fib fan line here that I took off, acting as major resistance. We've lost Gann support from this arc already. No further support until this trend line gets reached. I suppose it could meander until it hits that one and bounce below. You know, are we close to a major fib level? I mean, this 236 is acting as resistance. Let's check out the Elliott waves. Haven't done that one. And yeah, we're kind of just meandering back and forth from them in the same fashion as we did here, and they both broke downward. So this is very much looking like a fractal of this to me, a smaller degree, or smaller time fractal of this, possibly the same degree if it's a triangle. And I am kind of leaning towards the count where this is an A, B, C, D, and an E or something like that. I'm kind of leaning towards that count. So there you have it, folks. Hopefully you gain a little bit of insight, at least some view into my methodology. This is a very tricky chart, so I may have to update it in a couple of months as we get more wave here. I'll be curious to track this.